Let us journey back in time to an era where castles pierced the skies, knights jousted in tournaments, and kingdoms rose and fell under the guidance of their monarchs. The medieval period, spanning roughly from the 5th to the 15th century, was a time of immense social, political, and cultural upheaval. Amidst this tapestry of change, one institution stood as a constant: the monarchy. But what was the role of royalty in medieval society? What power did they wield? And how did their influence shape the lives of their subjects? In medieval Europe, monarchs were not merely figureheads or ceremonial leaders. They were believed to rule by divine right, God's authority bestowed upon them. This concept, deeply rooted in Christian theology, held that God chose kings and queens to govern their kingdoms, and that disobedience to their rule was tantamount to defying God's will. The coronation of a monarch was a sacred ritual, filled with symbolism and religious significance. The new ruler would be anointed with holy oil during the ceremony, symbolizing their divine appointment. They would also be presented with the regalia, the crown, scepter, and orb, each representing their authority and responsibilities. This pageantry served to reinforce the idea that the monarch was not simply a mortal ruler, but a divinely appointed figurehead. The divine right of kings granted monarchs immense power, but it also came with significant responsibilities. They were expected to maintain order and justice within their kingdoms, protecting their subjects from internal strife and external threats. The monarch was the ultimate source of law, and their courts served as the highest judicial authority in the land. To fulfill their duties, monarchs relied on a network of advisors, nobles, and clergy. They would hold councils where they would consult with their advisors on matters of state, and they would preside over courts where they would dispense justice. The monarch's word was law, and their decisions could have far-reaching consequences for their subjects. Beyond their political and judicial roles, monarchs were also patrons of arts and culture. They would commission grand palaces, cathedrals, and works of art, showcasing the wealth and power of their kingdoms. They would also support universities and other institutions of learning, fostering intellectual and artistic development. The royal court was a center of cultural activity, attracting artists, musicians, and scholars from across the land. This patronage not only enriched the cultural landscape of the kingdom, but also served to enhance the prestige and legitimacy of the monarch. In addition to their cultural influence, monarchs also wield significant economic power. They controlled vast tracts of land, which they would lease to tenants in exchange for rent and services. They also collected taxes from their subjects, which they would use to fund their armies, build infrastructure, and support the royal household. The monarch's economic power was not absolute, however. They were often constrained by the power of the nobility, who controlled their lands and resources. The relationship between the monarch and the nobility was often a delicate balance of power, with each side vying for influence and control. The role of monarchy evolved significantly throughout the medieval period. In the early Middle Ages, monarchs were often weak, and their power was limited by the influence of the nobility. However, as the centuries progressed, monarchs began to consolidate their power, centralizing their authority and weakening the power of the nobility. This process of centralization was driven by several factors, including the rise of towns and cities, the development of a professional bureaucracy, and the increasing use of gunpowder weapons. By the end of the medieval period, monarchs had become powerful rulers, able to command vast armies and control large territories. The legacy of medieval royalty is complex and multifaceted. On the one hand, monarchs were often autocratic, and their rule could be harsh and oppressive. On the other hand, they played a crucial role in maintaining order and stability, promoting cultural development, and fostering economic growth. The legacy of medieval royalty continues to shape our world today. Many of the institutions and traditions that we take for granted, such as the monarchy itself, the legal system, and the university, have their roots in the medieval period. The ideals of chivalry, honor, and service, which were so central to medieval society, continue to inspire us today. The medieval monarchy was a tapestry of contradictions, a blend of power and piety, of pageantry and politics, of war and peace. It was a time of immense change and upheaval, but also a time of great cultural and intellectual achievement. The role of royalty in this complex and dynamic era was multifaceted and ever-evolving. But one thing is certain: the monarchy was a central institution in medieval society, shaping the lives of millions of people and leaving a lasting legacy that continues to resonate today. Thank you for joining us in celebrating the role of royalty in medieval society, where rulership began as a sacred duty entrusted to leaders by their communities. Together, let us honor the resilience and fortitude of ancient dynasties and royal families, whose legacies continue to inspire us to strive for self-control and wisdom in our modern pursuits. Remember, you are an essential part of our community. If you found this video insightful or thought-provoking, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more royal heritage and educational purposes.